Political ads are everywhere online, using analytics and algorithms to target voters with incredible precision. Whether it's through social media, streaming videos, or other digital channels, campaigns today can tailor their messages to fit exactly what they think you want to hear.
Hello, and welcome to The Marketing Architects, a research-first podcast dedicated to answering your toughest marketing questions. I'm Elena Jasper. I run the marketing team here at Marketing Architects, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Angela Voss, the CEO of Marketing Architects, and Rob DeMars, the Chief Product Architect of Misfits and Machines.
Hi, Elena.
Hello. We're back with our thoughts on some recent marketing news, always trying to root our opinions in data, research, and what drives business results. Today we're talking politics. Well, kind of. We're discussing political advertising. No actual politics allowed. We're going to talk about the history of political advertising in the US. We'll discuss how marketers should navigate the increase of media spend this election season. And we'll talk about what we can learn from the persuasive, creative tactics political advertisers use. Let's set the stage with some data. According to eMarketer's 2024 US political ad spending forecast, political ad spend will surpass $12 billion in the US this year. That is a new record. This triples the $4.25 billion spent in 2016. And CTV is the fastest growing political ad format. But despite the growth of more digital channels like CTV, traditional media, specifically traditional TV, still dominates political ad spend. TV makes up 57.3% of total political ad spend. And digital accounts for 3/4 of total ad spend in the US, so seeing TV represent over half of political ad spend is significant. And local TV will make up most of that political TV spend. So Angie, you started your career at Marketing Architects as a media buyer. What should marketers expect this influx of ad spend to do to the media buying market?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. A crazy year for more than one reason, although we're not going to go into the other reasons per the rules of the podcast and not getting into politics. But I mean, first off, obviously, we're talking about record-breaking numbers here. So everyone's going to be fighting for ad space, especially on TV and digital platforms like CTV. And so that likely means that prices are going to go up, and it's going to be harder for non-political advertisers to get their hands on some of the inventory that maybe they're accustomed to getting. It might be tougher to get into prime placements. Political campaigns are given preference with regulation and stuff. So some regular ads might be bumped or rescheduled, especially as we get closer to the election, and to your point, especially in the local space. With political advertisers pouring more money into digital channels, marketers may need to switch things up to make sure they're still reaching their target audiences effectively. But I think the key is just to stay flexible. Keep a close eye on how the political ad spend is affecting your campaigns. Be ready to adjust your game plan as needed. It's certainly going to be interesting, but oftentimes we'll have brands come to us and say, I know we're going into a political year. Should we plan to not spend in TV? And the answer to that is always absolutely not. I shouldn't say always. I don't like absolutes, but we definitely don't recommend we have to completely bow out of the space. There's a lot of TV inventory out there, and not all is created equal when you think about how political ad dollars are sprinkled across the marketplace. So you just have to be smart about understanding where those opportunities might be and have backup plans to consider moving dollars from one channel to another. But it shouldn't be a space unless you're very tightly focused on specific local markets where you need to just think, I have to stop completely.
I was going to say, do we ever recommend that brands, if they have a combination of a local and national buy, that they lean more into national? Because it sounds like a lot of the political ad spend is being concentrated towards certain local markets.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are just the things you need to consider. If you've got the flexibility of looking for new consumers or looking for impressions on a national basis, generally speaking, you're going to face less demand on that side. But there's a lot of people thinking that way, right? So it's like if you've got a lot of marketers pushing from local to national because they can, it can tighten the national market as well, not to the degree that of what happens in local.
Hey, Ange, so do networks ever play into the decision of running a particular candidate? So, for example, obviously, Fox News isn't a huge fan of Joe Biden. If he wanted to run a series of ads on there, is he allowed to? Or can they say, we're just going to, run the other guys?
No, even though they lean one way or the other, They need to give equal opportunity to the candidates that show
Okay.
up. And the question would be, is Biden trying to win those people over? And is that a good...
Absolutely. Right. Is that a good strategy? But the networks themselves play a hand in which candidates get play.
No. I mean, can you imagine what we might deal with? That would be the media potentially swaying the election. So that could get pretty crazy.
I do have an article that I want to share, but first, I couldn't resist asking Rob to prepare a little Rob history lesson for this episode because I'm personally super curious about the history of political ads, but I'm even more curious to see how Rob avoids actually being political in his answer.
I'm excited to actually talk about the history of political advertisings. It was fascinating to dig into. It all started with pamphlets and broadsides and newspapers. Back in the day, like during the 1840 campaign of William Henry Harrison, campaigns were all about catchy slogans and lively jingles and eye-catching posters. These ads were pretty straightforward, but super effective at drumming up voter enthusiasm. Then came a great era of radio and TV, which totally changed the game. Remember from history class hearing about FDR's fireside chats? They showed how radio could create this personal bond with listeners. But really, the big revolution came with TV. Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1952, he was the one really known for running the first campaignable I Like Ike cartoon series that was really simple, catchy, straightforward, really built his brand using television. And TV ads quickly became really the main forum for candidates crafting their image and their policies. Fast forward to 1964, and we hit the era of negative ads. So Lyndon Johnson's Daisy commercial is legendary. It showed a little girl picking daisies, which suddenly cuts to a nuclear explosion. It was meant to strike fear about Barry Goldwater's policies, and boy, did that work. Since then, pulling on voters' emotions became a staple strategy in political ads. By the 20th century, things got even more high-tech. We got direct mail, phone banking, and then, of course, the internet came to play. Bill Clinton's 1992 campaign was really seen as a pioneering strategy at targeting more specific groups of voters. And then Barack Obama, his team was really seen as the masters of using digital media to fundraise and mobilize supporters like never before. Now political ads are everywhere online using analytics and algorithms to target voters with incredible precision. Whether it's through social media, streaming videos, or other digital channels, campaigns today can tailor their messages to fit exactly what they think you want to hear. So from print to pixels, political advertising has come a long way. It's not just about reflecting the times anymore. It's about shaping how campaigns interact with us, the voters.
It's pretty crazy how effective political ads are. Like, there's a reason why they do them and they spend so much money on them. It's because they work.
Absolutely. I forgot about that famous Lyndon Johnson ad and just how truly dramatic of an ad that was. I mean, you're talking about nuclear, the apocalypse, basically, in your TV campaign. So, yeah, we've had quite a history already.
And you said that was in the 60s, right? So there wasn't any negative advertising.
That was that was the bomb, no pun intended.
Well, a lot's changed since then. I feel like half the political ads I see now are like more attack ads. Well, thank you, Rob. I had a quick article I wanted to share to tee up our next area of discussion. It's called Deep Data and Big Money Are Driving a New Era in Political Advertising, and it's by Edward Lempinen for Berkeley News. He talks about how billions of dollars are spent on political TV advertising, but even experienced consultants don't always know what works. Most political campaigns are still stuck in the days of the focus group, showing their ad to 10 or 15 people who might represent their candidate's target audience, taking notes of reactions, and tweaking the ad based on that response. But today, campaigns spend millions of dollars on real-time creative testing. Because the problem with focus groups is, well, there's arguably a lot of problems, but one of them is the time it takes. In any election year, the context of any race is constantly shifting. Issues change, moods of voters change. The authors in this report showed this by creative testing 617 advertisements by 51 political campaigns in 2018 and 2020. And they found that creative effectiveness varied by election year as well as other factors. So in 2018, ads focused on issues were more effective. In 2020, this wasn't the case. In that year, having a woman as the messenger in the ads had a significant impact on voter attitudes. But that wasn't as important in down ballot races like local government positions. Ads that were pushy worked for the presidential vote in 2020, but again, not in down ballot races. Basically, the old school focus group can't adapt quickly enough. But online creative testing can turn results around nearly immediately, helping candidates in 2024 create more persuasive, real-time advertisements. So, Rob, I thought this article was pretty interesting because it almost reads like political campaigns are just discovering online pre-testing of TV ads.
I was actually quite surprised that this shift has taken so long. I mean, online creative pre-testing is not a new methodology. We've been using it for almost a decade. It definitely gets you a broader reach in terms of the audiences that you're testing. And it's way faster and a lot lower cost. So yeah, I'm surprised the story isn't moving more in the direction of how can we take advantage of synthetic audiences as AI continues to grow. And that is proving out to be even more predictive than focus groups and online panels.
I agree. I thought it was surprising and made me think, wow, political ads are about to get a lot more effective.
Yeah.
If they're just this year starting to use like real-time pre-testing. But Rob, have you ever worked on like political ad creative?
I have not ever worked on political ads, no.
No. I wonder if they work the same way as like a direct response TV ad. It's very similar, right? You're trying to get someone
I think they all
take an action to donate.
We had a podcast not too long ago on Cialdini and his principles of influence. And I think all of those are really evergreen and transcend into whether it's political or direct response or brand. You're dealing with urgency. You're dealing with reciprocity. I mean, just all of those classic triggers, you see them used handily in political advertising.
I don't know who this comes from, but I've seen a lot on LinkedIn recently about brands like Coke or Pepsi that produce ads that are anti like their competitor. And it seems like in effectiveness, people are against that because you're basically just giving airtime to your competitor. So I wonder if political ads would have that same effect. Like, would you be better off doing an attack ad to kind of scare people away from voting for your competitor? Or would it work better just to spend that media time focused on you and your message?
It's such an interesting point. When you see how some political ads are 27 seconds of ripping on another candidate, and then at the very end, it's like, this was sponsored by blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine if brands did that. You did like 28 seconds of ripping on McDonald's, and then at the end, it was like, this brought to you by Burger King. You know, like,
Yeah. No one would watch television ever. Thank goodness that doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
I'd like to point out that I think it's interesting that so much of political ad spend goes towards TV. Like, it still in 2024, the majority of political ad spend is going to go towards TV. And I'll bet it's because a lot of times, like voting, when you're trying to sway like those last groups of voters that are swayable, probably like emotion works pretty well.
I mean, certainly it doesn't feel like if you get into the debate of direct response messaging versus emotional messaging, sales activation versus brand building, whatever you want to call it, definitely feels like whether you're talking about a candidate trying to win or there's a specific bill that we're trying to pass, there's much more of a play, I would say, on the emotion side versus all of the reasons, the more like sales activation side of things. And I think that's where TV does it better than any other channel. Like, we love to play on emotion in television.
Well, and credibility, right? We've always said TV is the channel that really establishes credibility. And where else would you want to establish credibility than when you're running for president?
Number one in trust. Probably doesn't hurt to have your face on TV. Okay, well, I think if I could summarize today, it's a political year, and there's going to be a lot more money going into the ad market, especially within television funding political campaigns. But I think we'd say, we're not necessarily saying you have to change your strategy. You should be working with an agency that can help adapt to increasing media spend. Like, there might be a case if you're an advertiser that's very focused on one local market, you might need to make some adjustments as we get closer to the election, but probably not a lot of changes to make from a media point of view if you're working with an agency that can adapt.
Especially if you're national. Yep. You might need to consider pulling back in certain months, but no one knows for sure exactly how much is going to flood the market and in what areas. So to just completely avoid, there's a lot of other brands out there that are going, that's going to be hard. Prices could go a lot higher than we want to pay. And so just being flexible and having a pulse on what's happening with so much media being available in television just generally is the best approach, we feel.
I wonder too if this might be a silly point, but as the election gets closer and everybody gets stressed out, I wonder if certain categories are going to do better. Mental health apps, spas, maybe people will be wanting to treat themselves.
Food,
Escapism.
alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Final question. If you had to run a campaign to get any non-political person elected, who would you pick?
This question is just ripe for problems, right?
Well, Rob, I was going to ask who you're voting for, but I thought,
well, I mean, like, who does? I mean, every time I feel like I have a new hero, then you find out they've got something in their closet. So I'm going to go with Woody from Toy Story, because I don't think Woody's ever had a problem.
You cheated. You cheated. I really thought about this. Like, I was like, okay, if I really had to put someone out there, who would I do? And I was thinking, like, I want them to be a charismatic leader. I want them to have good communication skills. I think they need cross-cultural appeal. I want them to be a good business person. I want them to be a good influencer. I want them to be a visionary. So, like, you came up with Woody. I'm going with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And not only do I think he's well-positioned, but I also think we could say, I mean, his slogan just seals the deal for me, because we could say, "Make America Rock Again."
Oh,
That's,
man.
You might have just lost your chance of ever running his campaign.
I mean, I do believe that Dwayne could beat any candidate, like, physically. Like, he could literally beat them.
Which I kind of like. I'm like, I can get behind that. I literally want to get behind you in a fight. Let's go.
Nice.
Yeah, I almost picked The Rock, and
that's
a great one. I know he's teased sometimes going into politics, and he's so beloved, and he's a businessman, a great actor. And yeah, I could see that. I also had trouble with this. I had some ideas in my head, and then I found out just how many people have really been canceled in the last couple of years. But I don't think this person's been canceled, but I don't know if I'd be willing to bet on it. I don't think she's been canceled. I picked Angelina Jolie. So she's not only popular and beloved as an actress, she's also a humanitarian. She founded the National Center for Refugees and Immigrant Children. And there is one challenge. She announced late last year that she's ready to step away from Hollywood because of the toxicity. So moving from that to politics might not be what she's looking for, but who knows? I think she could be great at it. So I would run her campaign. So Woody, The Rock, and Angelina Jolie.
Maybe it's like the president, vice president, and I guess I don't know what you call Woody, but
please name one other political position.
I was going to say, yeah, come on, Rob.
Let's see.
And the president of
all
happiness. All the other important things.
That's it for this episode of The Marketing Architects. We'd like to thank Ayana Klaphocky for producing the show and Taylor De Los Reyes for editing. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, and if you find the show valuable, please leave us a rating and review. And if you'd like to hear more from us, subscribe to our weekly email newsletter. It's built for marketers seeking research-first analysis of the latest trends. You can go to marketingarchitects.com/newsletter to subscribe. Now go forth and build great marketing.
Rob, did you make sure that whomever you are going to campaign for at the end, did you make sure that they weren't canceled or is somehow going to get us in trouble?
It's part of my answer.
Perfect.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know if I feel better or...